Hello and welcome to Your Story, Your Impact, where we shine a light on the top players making a real difference in the construction world. Today we're sitting down with Rick Harris. Rick has worked every angle of the contracting world, from the trenches as a plumber to running his own company to now coaching hundreds of tradespeople across all kinds of industry. And he's helping contractors go from, sheer craziness to total control. And he brings a really
Mhm.
unique perspective because he's lived the struggle so many contractors face, drowning in the paperwork, undercharging for jobs, barely seeing family, and figured out how to get out of that. And he now helps other people do the same. So I'm really pumped for this conversation because we're always talking to contractors who are amazing at the trade, but they feel kind of lost when it comes to running the business. And so Rick's definitely been there, done that, and now he teaches it. So we've got a lot to learn. So Rick, welcome.
Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I guess for those who maybe aren't familiar yet, why don't you kick us off by giving a quick intro in your own words about a little bit who you are, your experience, and the kind of work you're doing these days.
Yeah, so like you said, my background is in the trade. So I started working with my father at a very small plumbing business he had a long time ago, and my brothers worked there. Very much a family business, and we did fairly well. And but what ended up happening is Dad didn't know how to get away. So my older brother quit, started his business. I quit, started my business, and my older brother had hired coaches and consultants to kind of work with him
Mhm.
on his business. So eventually, my brother and I partnered up and bought Dad's business, and we progressed fairly well, and we did quite well. And then eventually, what I ended up doing was selling my shares and moving on. And I had always wanted to go back and help contractors because I know that feeling of being frustrated, being overwhelmed, being lost, and everything that comes along with it. So I stepped
Hmm.
into that space. So I hired a coach, and she said, "You're a teacher. Go teach." So off I went, and I started my journey. So I ended up going through that process and ended up
Yeah.
as head of coaching, head of coaching at an international coaching company. And
Mm.
about 3 and a bit years ago, I quit that position and went back out on my own. Just simply, it wasn't a fit. Great company, but it was no longer a fit for me. And I had contractors that were the clients there that kind of followed me, but generally what I've discovered over the years, and it's like you said, they're really good at what they do, but they're frustrated by the business end of it. Um,
Yeah.
chasing money, struggling to get proper systems in place,
Hmm.
communicating with their team. I mean, I'm working with a client now, and it sounds really, really goofy, but he's a painting contractor, and he doesn't have a maintenance plan in place. And he's like, well, how do you get a maintenance plan in place with a painting contractor?
Mm.
And I said, you go back every 6 to 9 months, and you do free touch-ups. It's already built into your
Hmm.
pricing, but what that ends up becoming is not a maintenance agreement, but it's another sales call. So you're going in, you pop in for
Right.
an hour, you take a look around. So it is frustrating to see um, contractors like me, people like me, younger versions of me,
Hmm.
still struggling to get over the hump on a lot of different issues. And I'm sure you've seen it. I'm sure
Yeah.
you've experienced it. So, yeah, that's what I do. So I help them get the proper systems in place so that they can run a business that they want to run. And it
Right.
doesn't necessarily mean that you want to be in, an eight-figure company. It could be
Hmm.
defining success on your terms. What does success look like to you? So that's what I do.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like that you said that about the maintenance because some contractors can think very short term, and so to be able to kind of think about that long term timeline, like always thinking two, three steps ahead, can
Mhm.
really kind of benefit you.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess and it's interesting because I was talking to this guy, and we've been working together for quite some time, and he already has the maintenance agreements in place, but he wasn't pushing them out.
Mm.
So that's where somebody like me asked that three-letter question, why?
Hmm.
And it's because everything's connected. and he's got a system in place that isn't really good for job tracking employee hours. So I
Hmm.
said, get that system in place. So we worked on a timeline. I said, you have 2 weeks to get this in place. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to start rolling out that maintenance program and start reaching out to your existing client base and doubling back. And
Yeah.
he's got issues that everybody has, inconsistent
Hmm.
cash flow, dragging some debt, not knowing how to budget, not knowing how to forecast, and
Right.
simple things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I guess was there, what do you think what did burnout look for you? Was there like a specific moment that made you think like, okay, I gotta do something about this?
Yeah, I was coming home and bursting into tears, like literally,
Wow.
head in hands, saying I can't do this anymore. I don't know
Mm,
what I'm going to do. Felt like I was drowning. Felt like there was no easy way out.
hmm.
Um, the solutions seemed um, unreachable. And that's when having somebody to talk to and saying, okay, well, let's get you pointed in the right direction to fix the something.
Hmm.
And and it's human nature to be frozen in fear. And one of the things I always look at with if you're super stuck and if you're just so frustrated you don't see a way out,
Hmm.
do the snowball effect, which is like if you're in debt, some people talk about, pick the highest debt that you have with the highest interest rate and tackle that one. The snowball theory is that you take the smallest one, the one that's easiest to pay off, and give yourself some momentum. So,
Hmm.
so that's what we started to do was what are the things that we know we can fix right away? What are the things that we can get control of right away? And
Hmm.
it's all it's not about fixing, your margins, your this and all this. That stuff has to be done. But getting control
Yeah.
of your time,
Hmm.
how do I get control of my time so that I'm not stuck in the office working on estimates, not able to see what the guys are doing, not able to know what the team is doing, missing appointments, all that other stuff. Is how do I get my schedule under control? Not
Hmm.
completely, but just
Yeah.
little blocks of time that I can take and I can protect, and nobody's going to steal that from me.
Right. Yeah, and it's so interesting because I mean, you think about even Olympic athletes have coaches, but for whatever
Mhm.
reason, like when it comes to this industry, I see a lot of contractors wanting to wear, all the hats and do everything themselves. And yeah, it can be very, beneficial to have someone kind of showing you the ropes and coaching you along the way.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. It's having a community. It's not just me. So one of
Hmm.
the things that I do is we get together, all my clients get together on a consistent, regular basis, and we just talk about what's going on. What are you
Hmm.
working on? What are you stuck on? And
Hmm.
it's something I tried to do, way back when, is to get the other contractors in my community, the local contractors together just to talk about business. And I couldn't I couldn't get them together. And
Hmm.
maybe my messaging was wrong, maybe my intention was wrong. I'm not really sure. But
Hmm.
having other contractors are open and honest and communicative, talking about real problems, business and personal, and
Yeah.
that's we're always afraid to ask for help. But when you find
Hmm.
a group of people that you can sit and say, "Man, this is what's going on. What do I do?"
Yeah. Yeah, that can definitely, take that burden off your shoulders like you're carrying everything for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so then, yeah, I noticed you list humility, self-belief, and open attitude and courage as essential traits. Which one do
Hmm.
you see, which one do you see most contractors struggle with the most and why?
The communication, is being
Mm,
communicative about what's going on. And
hmm.
I've said this. to a group of people that contractors are liars.
Mm,
And it's not intentional, but it's just there's a lot of when I say ego, it's not egotistical. It's just they don't want their ego bruised. So when somebody says, how are things going for you? It's always things are great, couldn't be better, tons of stuff happening.
mm, yeah.
But so you combine that with the humility of saying, yeah, I'm really struggling with this stuff. And then communicating, this is what the issue is.
Yeah.
So, so one of the things I do is I run group sessions, and we do a lot of guys just saying this is what's going on, and then the group or the community asks clarifying questions like, well, so what does it you mean? You know, not asking yes or no questions that have
Hmm.
come with a yes or no answer, but just what does he mean? What does that look like? You know, how does it make you feel? What have you done? What are you planning? You know, those types of things. So being able to just communicate what's going on in your life, in your business, whatever is massively important. And then you tie that in to the structure inside of your business, whether it's systems, processes, software, your tech. What does your tech stack look like, and how
Hmm.
many times most businesses, and I know a lot of businesses are like this, but I'm going to just talk about the world of construction, renovation, home service. They're in
Hmm.
silos, so you could have a really good field management software, but it doesn't communicate with your CRM.
Hmm.
You could have a really good financial system, but it doesn't communicate well with your field management software or your CRM. So you're pushing and pulling information from all over the place. And then when you look at
Hmm.
the people, because systems could be amazing, but if you don't have the right people in place and you're not looking after them, your business will still struggle. So something as simple as how do you communicate with your team? How does that information flow to them, and how does that information from the field flow back to you so you know what's going on, and you're not that contractor who gets a phone call at 7 o'clock at night from a client that's saying what's going on and you have no idea. So it's that give and take of communication is massively important, and so that's communication and communicativity and everything else is critically important.
Yeah, and I think that maybe ties a little bit back into, so many contractors wanting to, wear so many hats and you can just find the right people and kind of just relax and trust them to take some of the reins and have that communication can be really beneficial for sure.
Yeah, 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 absolutely.
All right, cool. So, let's see. Yeah, you said that, you mentioned that you had to kind of fake it as a business owner at first. What helped you kind of feel like you weren't faking it anymore?
Looking around and seeing the people that were there to support me, whether it was primarily the coaches and consultants that we had brought in,
Hmm.
and understanding and learning from them because they had a community as well. Understanding that the issues that we were going through were not uncommon. The understanding that your cash flow is not you're not alone in the struggle. Not being able to get your team headed in the right direction, that's a common problem. Knowing
Right.
that the issues that I had, I wasn't alone in this struggle. So being able to
Hmm.
lean on other people to say, what is it I do? What do I do there? Because you don't want to open up to the people that you go home to because they're relying on you,
Hmm.
to take care of things. That's
Right.
kind of where things really made a difference for us. Me,
Hmm.
knowing that I wasn't alone in what I was going through.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely, having that community to feel like you can talk with definitely helps.
Hmm.
Okay. And then I guess what kinds of client transformations kind of stick with you the most? The ones that make you think, yeah, this is why I do this.
Well, at one end, having clients actually cry on a call,
Mm,
just because they finally got over a hump.
mm, hmm.
To somebody saying to me, "I've never had so much money in the bank." And it's like, I don't know, and I look at one client in particular always pops up. And we had been working together on just improving systems and processes and just getting really more efficient and effective and everything that was going on inside of his business to the point that we were
Mhm.
really focusing on his high margin projects.
Mhm. Mhm.
And he he had a $400,000 increase in revenue without hiring any more people and not affecting his overhead
Wow.
and still maintain the same profit.
Mm. Wow.
So his company, when I started working with him, was around 900. So he got up to 1.3, 1.4 in and around there.
Mhm.
And he was just blown away by the increase, and to the point where they're looking at purchasing an extra property, investing the money that was there, and
Mhm.
it was not an overnight transformation. It was just a long period of you know working together with me, talking about what was going on, what was working, what wasn't working, and then me in the background helping him create those systems, and then being on his ass about implementing that stuff, to the point where he'd show up to a meeting. He's like, man, I haven't done anything. I said, that's fine, but why haven't you done anything? And
Mhm.
not trying to make him feel bad that he hadn't done anything, but it's like, okay, what's the underlying reason that you did get these things done? So those are the success stories where money is one. I had one guy ask me one time, what's the biggest issue that contractors and trades business owners face? And I said, it's time. It is
Mhm.
simply time. So
Mhm.
being able to, one guy was just over the moon that he was able to take his family away on vacation for two
Yeah.
weeks and
Mhm.
not have the business fall apart while he was gone. It didn't run perfectly, but it didn't implode while he was gone. So
Right.
those are the types of things that I focus on, and it's really super important to understand that there are other people. There's tons of people out in my space, and there's some really good companies out there that do the types of things that I do. But it's important to speak up and say what does success look like for you, and it's
Yeah.
one thing to listen to everybody beat you on the head saying that you need to have this, that, and everything else. But maybe just being able to take a Friday afternoon off and go hang out with your family or go hang out with your friends or just do whatever feeds your soul is more important to you than anything else. So
Mhm.
that's where, defining success on your terms is what you need to do first. Why are you doing what you're doing? I've worked
Yeah.
with people who came on board and we met, and I said, where are you at? And they were dragging around $1 million in debt. It's like, how do you function dragging around that much debt?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. And I like that you said that about, you know, when asking people, well, why haven't you done anything?
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, like I see maybe this kind of trend in entrepreneurship, or they kind of almost use like shame or making someone feel bad as like a motivator to kind of
Mm-hmm.
motivate them. And like theoretically, it can work like very short term, but long term, big picture, it's not usually effective. So I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That comes down to leadership, and
mhm,
you can lead people through fear, and they will follow you for a short period of time. But
mhm,
sooner or later, they don't. And there's this really intense sales training guy out there that is completely jacked, and all of his sales reps have to be completely jacked and six packs
mm,
and
yeah,
all the other stuff. And I get that works for him, but that doesn't work for everybody, and that works for the people who
yeah,
follow him. So you know, be sure the person that you're following is somebody that you align with. So
right,
no matter who that is.
right. Okay, so suppose a contractor comes to you and they say, "Look, I have all this extra work, but I'm just not making any more money." What
Hmm.
might be the reason, or what would you say to that?
Oh, there could be multiple reasons. Had one client come on board. He was a referral from an accountant. They had $200,000 worth of unbillable labor over the last fiscal year. I said,
Mm,
that's an easy fix. They're an HVAC company. And what we did is we just dove in and said, show me the process from when a job is booked to completion. What does that look like? An install. So
mhm,
he said, da, 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 da. He told me what was going on. He told me the steps. I wrote the steps down, created what's called a process map, which is all through Lean Six Sigma. So we identified the bottlenecks and the delays and things that were not perceived customer value and some other things in there. So it was just a simple process of identifying, well, these are the roadblocks, these are the bottlenecks, this is what's happening, this is why you're losing money. And
mhm,
it's sounded like a really simple process to implement, but it is challenging because nobody likes change. So getting your team to say, from now on, we're not doing this, we're doing it this way, and we're doing it this way because, and this is how it affects you, and this is, so there's a lot of moving pieces in there. So um, there are ways of, and this is what I talk about. What get met. There's two things I always say. What gets measured gets managed.
mhm,
So if you're not measuring or not tracking, billable hours inside of your business, you're not able to manage them. If you're not managing them, things are going to get away from you.
mhm,
And it's it's just because something is easy doesn't mean it's just because it's efficient doesn't mean it's effective. So if you're doing something because it's the way you've always done it and it's the easiest way to do it, it does not mean it's effective in any way whatsoever. I mean, I'm still going through challenges like that, because I'm looking to hire some contractors from time to time in my
mhm,
area, and
mhm,
they're still working like it's 1985. You know,
mhm.
paper invoices. Anyhow, there's a lot of changes that can be made that don't have to be radical, that can make a huge improvement inside of your business and ultimately your personal life.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I actually just had another conversation where he was saying how, because you mentioned that 1985 thing, like the average age of the contractor is kind of up into the 50s now. And
Hmm.
so, we got to take care of the new people coming in. So, and yeah, you mentioned that, hiring and managing people was a challenge for you, but what kind of helped you figure that piece out or improve upon that?
Um, it sounds kind of goofy, but understanding how people give and receive information is radically different from right across the board. So I'm the type of person that is a big picture. I'm a big picture individual.
Mm-hmm.
The minor details don't move me, don't motivate me, which means there are times if I'm communicating with someone, it's just the way that I'm wired. I'm big picture, but if I'm working with somebody who needs those details and I skip over them, that stresses them out. So
Right.
understanding that if they need those details, I have to slow down and give them those details. And
Mm-hmm.
there's no better way to stress out your people and force them out the door by not giving them clear roles and responsibilities, not giving them job descriptions, not giving them metrics to measure their success, not
Mm-hmm.
giving them a path, not giving them an idea of what you believe in as a company and an organization, and not explaining to them that what they're doing moves the needle on
Mm-hmm.
your company, something as simple as your company core values.
Mm-hmm.
So, so say one of your core values is to be a highly communicative company, but you don't explain to your team members what that looks like. They don't, and how what they're doing influences the success or failure of the company. There's no point even having them. So it sounds like a really long, complicated answer, but I keep going back to communication. How you communicate
Mm-hmm.
to the world, how you communicate to your leads, how do you communicate to your clients, how do you communicate to your team members, There's a really good coach that I listen to a bunch, and he says your first customer is always the people that work with you, your team members. Those are the people that you
Yeah.
have to take care of first.
Yeah.
Then you take care of the other people that bring revenue into your company. I'm not saying that they're not important,
Hmm.
but you have to take care of your team first. So, those are the things that I kind of struggled with and kind of figured out. And then it sounds goofy, but it's understanding that people give and receive information differently. So,
Right. Yeah, and I was actually just talking with another contractor coach, and he was saying how something similar where, your website is not just for, your customers, it's for your team members as well, your employees that you're trying to hire. And
mhm.
also like, yeah, just having that right guidance in place. Like a lot of people will say, give someone a task and they feel like, I don't know, what I'm supposed to be doing here. So having that clear,
Mhm.
getting really clear and specific on that can, yeah, definitely be beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Mhm.
All right. And then I guess craziness to control, it's kind of like your trademark, I guess. And so
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
guess what do you say, what does control actually mean to you now? And maybe what does it look like for a contractor? Has it really dialed in?
Um, Great control means to me, predictability. How much money do I have coming in? How much profit do I
Mm-hmm.
have coming in? How many prospects do I have coming in? Wow, how many do I need to, how many prospects do I need to make sure that I have work coming in?
Hmm.
A close ratio. Um, Knowing how far down the road you're booked out, knowing how long it takes you to get an estimate turned around, knowing, and it's just the predictability of this is what happens, Monday through Friday, knowing when you're going to be home. Things
Hmm.
things can happen, things can go sideways, but the predictability of knowing when you're going to be home and just being we're creatures of habit. We need routine, we need structure, we need predictability.
Right.
Running around um, with your hair on fire, your ass on fire is not a way of not a happy way of doing things. It's not structure. And
Hmm.
if you're able to get control of those predictable pieces inside of your business, a lot more relaxing, and it should be fun, and
Yeah.
if you're not a tradesperson and you've never worked on a job site with other tradespeople, it could be a whole lot of fun. It's entertaining, it's fun, you're laughing, you're hanging out with other people who are doing different trades and getting to know one
Hmm.
another. It should be fun. It should not be chaos and strife and arguing. It can be fun and it should be fun.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Having, fun while you work can definitely, boost morale and keep it
Mhm.
keep it going.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So then I guess one of the last questions I like to ask people is if you could theoretically wave a magic wand and kind of change one thing about the construction industry, contractor industry, what might that be?
I could change one thing. How about it all? Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of charlatans out there. They're looking to take a piece of every contractor.
Hmm.
Um, Contractors and trades business owners are very open and honest, are very trusting, and it's happened to
Hmm.
me. Just the people that help contractors, do it with a good heart and good intentions, and you know, service before you sell. Give
Hmm.
value, give to them, and don't be that guy or that person that takes $5,000 out of a contractor's pocket and delivers them a bunch of crap. Just just
Hmm.
just be there. And then that would be one thing. And then contractors start talking to one another, lean on one another, have the abundance mindset. If you're a
Hmm.
plumber in a town and there's another plumbing company in the town, go have lunch together. There's plenty of work to go around. Raise the bar for everybody.
Hmm. Yeah, team building is, very, very important.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, yeah, Rick, this has been awesome. Really appreciate you taking the time and sharing so much experience and wisdom with us.
Yeah.
For anyone who wants to learn more about you, work with consulting, or just follow along with the work you're doing, what's the best place for them to find you?
Well, you can find us on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Um, Go to the website, shoot me a message. I have a fit for anybody. So if you're just starting out and you're really struggling, I can put you into a really good group program. And if you do want to move up and go work one-to-one, we can certainly do that. But and I have tons of free stuff that I'll shoot you. Just shoot me a message and I'll send you some free stuff. And I won't pester you trying to sell you
Hmm.
more stuff. Service
Yeah,
be service be before selling for sure.
right. All right, awesome. Yeah, we will make sure to link that up in the description as well. Yeah, thanks again for being here, Rick, and really enjoy the conversation. And yeah, definitely hope to maybe collaborate more with you down the road.
Absolutely, I love that. Thanks, Andrew.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to Your Story, Your Impact, and we will see you next time.